discovered is that it really takes two people to have an argument. You just can't argue with yourself if someone is just listening to you. I learned a lot of things about listening, and so I decided that, you know, this is worthwhile to just not speak for another day. And another day, and another day. And finally I decided I'd have to write my parents and tell them that I wasn't going to be calling them up in Philadelphia from my home now in California. And so I did. I wrote my parents, and my mother wrote me back. She said, "Your dad will be on the next plane." Because she saw me in California being taken over by some strange California religious cult. First, they won't let me get home because I will have to walk everywhere. And I'll tell you, when I called home and told my parents that, "Mom, Dad, yeah, I've given up riding in cars for the environment." And my dad wants to know why I didn't do this when I was 16. I didn't know about the environment then. They seem to not understand about the environment either, because it just hasn't gotten there yet from California. Things start there in California. Oil spills happened in California, and that's where the first earthquake came. But a lot of things happened here in Wisconsin. John Muir came here to study. You know, John Muir, who founded the Sierra Club and national parks, and Aldo Leopold came here to study and teach. You know, Aldo Leopold, the Sand County Almanac. This institute is named after Gaylord Nelson. Earth Day, you know, Gaylord, the first one. So we have a tradition here in Wisconsin. And I was learning about that tradition out in California. I'm still studying about what it's like to just walk and not speak. And my dad came out and he went back and he said, "You know, dear, we should just leave him out there in California and hope that he doesn't come out here, you know, because I don't think this would work back in Philadelphia." And I walked and I learned to play the banjo, and I painted and I wrote, and finally I lived in a wilderness area called the Kalmiopsis Wilderness, and when I came out, I went to school. I went to school at Southern Oregon State College. It was really a wonderful school. I finished in 2 years studying my undergraduate degree. My dad came out, he saw me graduate. He was so happy. He says, "Oh my God, you graduated. How did you do that?" The rest of my family. I hunched my shoulders. He goes, "Yeah, that's great, but you have a BS degree. What are you going to do with a BS degree? You don't ride in cars and talk." I hunched my shoulders, grabbed my banjo, put my backpack on, and I kept on walking. I walk up to Washington State, where I built a wooden boat, rowed it across Puget Sound, all the way, walked, Idaho, down into Missoula, Montana. Now, 2 years earlier, I'd written the folks at Missoula, Montana, and said, "Yeah, I'm interested in your environmental studies degree. I don't ride in cars and talk." He said, "When are you going to get here?" I said, "In 2 years." He said, "Okay, we'll be waiting." And so that's what happened. 2 years later, I'm there in Montana, at the University of Montana, and they let me come to the university. Now, I don't have any, you know, how am I going to go to school when you don't have any of that stuff? And so I told that to the director of the program. He said, "Oh, come back the next day. Come back tomorrow and we'll take care of that." I went back the next day and gave me $150. He said, "Register for 1 credit." I did. 1 credit, I registered for this 1 credit. And so he said, "Now you can have a key to the office. You're going to be a graduate student. You can use the library. And that 1 credit, which is going to be in reading and conference, I mean, you can just read on, you're going to South America, right? Well, you can read about the hydrological systems of South America, the rivers of South America. I can use the library." He says, "This is what we're going to do. We talk to all the professors you have to take courses from, and we're going to let you take courses, and they're going to save your grade till we figure out how to get the rest of the money so that you can register for school with all those classes." I like to tell that story because if someone would have told me that would have happened, I wouldn't have believed them. And I would have thought, well, if you're going to go to college, you have to have the money in your hand. But I say that story just to let you know that as you are on your journey, things happen to help you get to where you need to go. Well, a year and a half later, I finished my degree, a master's degree in environmental studies from the University of Montana in Missouri. My dad shows up, sees me do that. He says, son, we're really proud. How do you graduate? How do you graduate without talking? And I taught classes. How do you do that? I hunch my shoulders, I grab my backpack. I get my banjo. What are you going to do with a master's degree? You don't ride in cars, you don't talk. And I walk on. I walk down through Montana and Idaho, across Idaho into Wyoming and into South Dakota. By the time I get to South Dakota, I get to a place called Watertown, South Dakota. Anybody hear of it? It's right on the edge of South Dakota, on the eastern edge of South Dakota. And winter is already happening. And so I stop there. I'm going to live there for a while. For the winter, I get a job as a printer. I have to learn how to print. And I print a newsletter, the Planet Walker newsletter. That goes out to all my friends. While I'm there, the native community comes and they say, John, we want to celebrate your life for walking across the country for peace and justice. Because my walk across the country is really about, well, it's about my education, really. And my desire to be a benefit to humankind, but I really don't know what that means. I figure I'm going to learn that on the way. And so while I'm there, in Watertown, South Dakota, I write all the universities that I'm going to be coming toward. I write the University of Wisconsin in Madison. And this is the only university that I get a really positive response from. It says, John Francis, we want you to come to Madison, and we can support you. I showed that to my dad, who had come out to see me, and he looked at it and he says, look like they're going to give you money. Now, dads are like that. They look out for the practical things. How much money are you making? Are you making any money? Are they going to give? Well, he said that, so I figured maybe that's true. So I put on my backpack, I grabbed my banjo, and I walked the bottom part of Minnesota up through La Crosse, Viroqua, right to Richland Center, and to Madison. Wow, I was here, Madison. It was the 12 o'clock noon on the first day of the summer session. And I don't know if you've been here 12 o'clock noon the first day of the summer session, but there's a lot of us running around out on the street and cars going this way, and I was like going, oh, I'm never going to stay here. There's too many people. And because I had been used to going into little towns. But they took me down to the Union. They said, just take them down to the Union. It was one of my colleagues from Montana. Had me taken down to the Memorial Union out there. And it was a very interesting experience for me because I walked in and God, there was music playing. They had a band shell and it was, I don't know who they were playing, some hard rock, and there were sailboats sailing back and forth, and you know, there were co-eds jumping around in little bikini things. Everybody was sitting in these little tables drinking pitchers of beer. I said, oh, this is the place of the devil. I am never coming here. That lasted only for a few weeks. I was there just like everybody else, having brought some beer and sailing with the hoofers and all that.